And then had some zinc anodes welded to the end of the outfall. And what that does is it's a battery, basically, you know, with the seawater and the metal and the iron. So the zinc anodes should they do this in ships, will decay before the piping. But that's a temporary stopgap issue. So going to do, you know, we had a camera. They were only able to go about 150 feet before it really went underwater. Looking to see if I can find, working with Beacon Engineering on it, to see if I can find additional measures to do some inspection. I want to go out there and take a look at the pipe going from the seaward end, looking in to see what that looks like during a low tide and low waves. Captain Giles and I were going to do that yesterday, but the conditions, the waves kind of precluded that. So again, I'll have more information for the March meeting.
Oh, Mr. Mayor?
I'm confident that you're attentive to it, so, Commissioner, good.
Yeah, Joe, that would be great. And for the March meeting, is there any way for you to determine those iron pipes? Or you think they're from the 1990s that go all the way toward like 2nd Street? Is that your assumption? Early 90s, or are they much older than that?
We've done, okay, you mean inland. We've done cammering of them in the last several years. And we haven't seen anything that needed immediate attention there. So.
Oh, great. So you're saying that like west of the boardwalk, that's in pretty good shape, like based on those 2021, you know, all that investigation in 2021 of the entire stormwater system, you're seeing those particular pipes are in decent condition?
Yes, and when next time, it's usually Caswell that we have out to do the cammering. We're going to have them do a fair amount of sewer cammering on Rehoboth Avenue and on the north side of town. We can check a few areas, kind of spot check.
All right, thank you, Henry. Go ahead, Taylor.
So moving on to our Fleet Services Department. So this is all of our city fleet being maintained and managed through our Mitchell One Fleet Service Tracking System. That's in the contractual services line item. And all of our cleaning, uniforms, things of that nature. Also in the maintenance contracts here, we have I believe it's annual lift inspection, our scanning tools, the service lift, air compressor service, and parts washer. Henry, are there other items that you'd like to highlight related to fleet services?
No, that really handles it. Just want to, first of all, I want to thank some of the Public Works department heads that came in to here for support and answer any questions that I may not be able to answer.
Can you identify them
Sure.
for us?
We have Joe Hangle from Building and Grounds,
Raise your hand.
Paul Hignut, Wastewater, Art Fahringer from Fleet Services, and Robert Downs, Water Department.
Thank you.
And I will say the wonderful thing about our fleet department is that they also do CDL training for our employees, and that's a huge cost savings to the city and greatly appreciated. But they maintain all of our trash trucks, everything from the hook hoist truck down to police cars to everything, so.
Mayor, if I could, please.
Commissioner Thayer?
Will do.
What?
Question for Gene. I guess it's for Henry and for Gene. So it's on salaries in fleet services. So the projected is about 140. The budget's 190. I see the budget for 2025 is 173. So vacancies does that explain the
decrease?
Yeah, not the decrease, but when I look at the 26 projected, what we're actually going to spend in 26 is significantly less than we're budgeting for 27.
Well, we had an opening in fleet services at the beginning of this fiscal year.
Yep.
So we only had 2 out of 3 people there for a little bit, and then now we have a full complement of employees there.
Okay, great. And that was my question. Was it related to a vacancy? Since we're talking about vacancies, from a entire city perspective, where do we have vacancies today?
Okay, so right now, we are advertising again for a dispatcher. We went through a hiring process. We needed 2, we only got 1. So we're re-advertising right now for a dispatcher. We have a conditional offer out to fill our last custodian position. So within the next 2 weeks, hopefully he's here after he gets his background and all that stuff done. So that should be filled in the next 2 weeks. We have someone in our water department that is retiring. However, yesterday we interviewed somebody from our streets department that is likely going to move over into that position. And then we will have an opening if he takes that in streets, but streets kind of has a natural progression from seasonals, part-time, full-time, so we probably won't even advertise that position. It will just naturally fill after the summer, and they make whatever transitions that they want.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Yes, Mayor, if I may.
Commissioner Gossip?
Thank you. Question with regards to contractual service recycling. I see that figure has increased. Is that the Blue Hen contract, or contractual service for Blue Hen, or where does that recycling contract fall?
In fleet services or?
Yeah, I'm just curious. It says recycling, so I'm not quite sure where.
Yeah, I think you're referring to line 511400.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Commissioner, a while ago, we actually did not have a separate fleet services department. Fleet services was in streets. So when fleet services was broken out, the recycling account name kind of carried over. So contractual services is our Mitchell 1 fleet service tracking. So we moved away from paper tracking of all records for services done on the vehicles to a digital format. And then also with that program, we also get user manuals, diagrams, additional information, and then there's also the uniform rag and floor mat cleaning in that account.
Okay. So where is the recycling for Blue Hen
That's in
reflected?
streets.
Streets.
Streets, that same account.
Okay. Thank you.
As we soon will offer opportunities for public comment, I want to just remind people of the rules. I know you all know the rules, but this is a standard statement I like to make that when a member of the public is recognized, then please come to the center microphone, state your name and address in relationship to the city, and everyone gets 3 minutes so we can hear from as many voices as possible. And the countdown clock on the wall will keep beep when time is up. There's so few of you here. Why don't you just raise your hand when you have a question? And this is an opportunity right now to, do you have anything on what's been said so far? No? All righty, thank you very much. Again, raise your hand if you have something as we get to it, and we'll be glad to get to you sooner than later.
Okay, we will move on to the comfort station budget. So this is all of the janitorial supplies, contractual services related to the restrooms and comfort stations throughout the city. It also includes our annual de-winterizing and winterizing of all of the different foot showers or water fountains, the plumbing service call-outs. I will note that this chart on the screen, as you know, we did a large capital project, the Beach Patrol building, over the past 2 fiscal years, and now, of course, this budget has greatly decreased. But we're here for any questions you have related to the comfort station budget.
Just for,
Commissioner Gossett?
thank you. Just for perspective, it costs the city about $250,000 a year to maintain all of the public restrooms. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, Henry?
Yeah, that's correct, Commissioner. And been working, Joe Hangel and I have been working with the company on it. And frankly, I got to tell you, last year I received a lot less complaints about the condition of the restrooms during the summer than the prior year. And last year, they increased their manning considerably at the contract price. So if you notice, there is a fairly significant increase this year compared to last. But that's because, and the contract is pretty tight, where during certain times, they have to provide X amount of people at all three comfort stations, on the boardwalk during certain times of the year and whatnot. So that's why you see the increase of price in there.
Thank you, Henry. Taylor?
Okay. Moving to building and grounds. So this includes the electric for a lot of our different parks, building maintenance. So this is the electric, floor maintenance, door locks, paint, window cleaning, power washing, HVAC repairs, roof repairs, specifically the LG unit maintenance on all of the wonderful units in this building, security, pest protection, things of that nature. Henry? Anything else?
I
to
really
add?
don't have anything to
Okay.
add.
And yeah, so any questions on building and grounds?
If I may, again, just
Gaza?
a line item, minor equipment and supplies seems to be a large increase. Is that attributable to what? That's,
Well, one of the items on that is one of the employees we have that was a janitor. He's now a handyman.
Okay.
And so he's able to do a fair amount of maintenance that we used to contract out. So, but with that, he obviously has to buy more supplies and tools.
I think Joe can correct us if we're wrong, but I think they were also planning on purchasing tables to replace some of the ones in the convention center.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Saunders?
Just a quick question on the museum. Since the dock is sort of stabilized, are we able to do the repairs on the museum wall that needed? I think we were waiting to see if it stopped moving.
Sure, I haven't taken a look at that, to be frank with you. I can, take a further look.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Would this handyman be able to help us with any of what turns out to be remediation on both the flooring and the railings in the Baltimore Avenue Lifeguard Station, which of course is unfortunate. The flooring only lasted 4 months and seems to have degraded. But would you consider that, or are we definitely going back to EDIS and having them?
Well,
Place.
frankly, I wouldn't even want to have him do that. He doesn't have that expertise, but if we had that expertise internally, that's on the contractor that did the work initially to repair it at no cost to the city.
Okay, that sounds good. So even though they'll have to pull out the flooring and some of the railings which don't meet code, that the price will reflect the original price? Will you be presenting that separately, the $200,000 that now needs to be put toward remediation of those two problems in the lifeguard station?
Yeah, so Henry will give a presentation on that this afternoon.
Okay,
but
great.
In a nutshell, it's all under warranty and we will not pay more. It's all under warranty, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Taylor?
So now we're planning to go over our enterprise fund revenues. So some of the highlights in water revenue is the PFAS settlement revenue. So we have received in FY26 $1.3 million in the settlements related to 3M and DuPont that we participated in those class action settlements. And then we are moving forward looking to receive about $100,000 a year for, I think, the next 6 years. Does that sound about right, Evan?
Yeah, Yeah, it might be a little bit less than that, but yeah, I know it's at least through 2030.
And then pointing out that our metered water revenue is nearly 40% of our total water revenue. And yes, so any questions related to water revenues?
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Yes, so I know Dewey Beach is unmetered, but I'm just surprised that and areas in unincorporated Sussex County near Dewey Beach to whom we sell water, but does that strike 39 point only, that under 40% of our metered water revenue is metered the way downtown Rehoboth Beach is and some other places, I believe, like, I guess, Breezewood, and is that on track from past years? Only because that's a huge volume, and like Dewey Beach and some other areas are unmetered, but I didn't realize it was more than 50% would be unmetered. Unmetered water users, of course, tend to use more water, apparently, according to the EPA, as much as a third to a half more than metered water users, just because they're paying a fixed rate, and it's they don't particularly watch their water usage.
The difference between the Dewey water and our metered water is, so our metered water is delivered directly to the customer, so we're maintaining all of that infrastructure that goes right up to their meter, and then their responsibilities from the meter to their home. But with the bulk water that we provide for the Dewey Beach area, it all goes through one master meter, and then we have no maintenance requirements past where we deliver the water. So it's bulk water versus the full service water.
Right, I mean, that's been true for many years, although there's a pilot project, I believe, in Dewey to measure 4 or 5 businesses to see if their consumption is unusually high because it's, a fixed rate. But I'm asking whether that tracks with past years, the breakdown between metered customers and the unmetered so-called bulk customers. Like, is that? I think a couple of years ago, I heard it was more like a third of the water usage was unmetered, and now all of a sudden it's 60.4%.
I'd have to take a look at it.
Okay, thanks, yeah.
Commissioner Good, and I'm sorry. Commissioner Susan Stewart, I think, did you have?
I just have a question about reporting. So on the left, you say fiscal year '26, we received revenue of $1.3 million from the PFAS. In the column on fiscal year '27, the first column, it says 1.4 million. Should that be just 100,000 in fiscal year '27 because 1.3 was fiscal year '26?
So we are carrying that over to utilize it for the capital project related to PFAS mitigation.
Okay, but I thought revenue is received when it's received.
Correct. So it's a appropriation of that fund balance that we've received. Yes.
I still don't understand it, but go ahead. I got you.
Commissioner?
Yeah, just to follow up on the metered water. I know Dewey, I just want clarification here, right? So we've got roughly 40% is metered, 60% is unmetered. But just from a clarification perspective, right? Though the individual, Dewey, for example, their residents do not have meters. But the water that we sell to Dewey, which we actually sell to the Dewey through the county, they pay on a quote-unquote per gallon basis. So it is, we're getting paid on their usage, right? The individual residents are not, but really that's not our concern. The concern as the city of Rehoboth Beach is that when we send somebody water, they're paying on a usage basis. So for example, per gallon, you can clarify what the metric is. So that's clarification 1. 2 is the 60% that are not on meters, it's really, they're paying on a usage basis, correct?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Okay, I just don't want there to be a misunderstanding that 60% of the people are not paying on a usage perspective. They are paying on a usage perspective. right? The city of Dewey is paying us in total on a usage perspective. Their individual users are not. But as far as the city's of Rehoboth Beach is concerned, we're getting paid per gallon.
That's correct.
Thank you. Just wanted to avoid any confusion there.
Thank you. Taylor?
So now we wanted to go into the water operations side. So this is the highlights related to the water operations. So they have a lot of their expenditures are related to chemicals, electric, and then we also have the engineering for the carbon filtration systems for PFAS mitigation in this budget. General maintenance, we have a project for air gap at the Lincoln Street and implementation of other EPA audit report recommendations. We are still waiting on the written EPA audit report to receive that, but we received verbal recommendations from them when they had their visit here. This also has remediation of trees at some of the wells. Tree roots don't work too well with our wells. And I will point out that all of our wells are outside the city limits. This also has our generator contract and termite control, and then the corrosion on water tower as well, and then utility patching related to our water infrastructure, the water lines. You've probably seen that our water infrastructure goes outside of the city limits as well. So when we have road patching on Rehoboth Avenue Extended, for example, or other areas, we have to patch that when we work on it. Any questions related to the water operations?
Thank you.
All right, moving on to revenue side on wastewater. So again, you're fairly familiar with our capital contributions from Sussex County. So they pay 42% of our debt service on the outfall and 42% of debt service on the plant. But capital contributions are also based on flows for things that are non-debt related. So you'll see that for Phase 4, Sussex County is making up 60% of that contribution, and North Shores comes in at 5%. The metered sewer charges account for about 51% of our total operating revenue with wastewater, and that's excluding capital and transfers.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Yeah, Mr. Cheddar, so would this be correct that with, at the moment, in-town customers now only represent 35% of the flow to the plant, which keeps declining, as we know, because surrounding areas are growing faster in terms of household numbers than, is that correct now? It's only 35%?
That's pretty accurate, Commissioner. It does go up and down from month to month.
And so would that mean for Phase 4 Sussex, I mean, since North Shores pays through user fees, like treatment, would Sussex County be responsible for 60% of Phase 4 or 65% of Phase 4, which is like well over $10 million of upgrades?
Well, it'll be based on the flows at the time, from when we start the project. We'll be billing them. We bill them quarterly for the sewer usage, and for the county, Sussex County, that includes Dewey Beach and Henlopen Acres.
So every quarter, it's recalculated of what that flow
Okay.
is for the quarter. So say, the summer quarter, that might be heavier on the Sussex County side than our side, or it might level out, so but it should stay approximately around this range for this next year.
It's a little confusing to me only because in the past, it's just been broken out Sussex County versus Rehoboth Beach. This is the first time I've seen a separate designation of North Shores, and 5% seems high for North Shores, frankly. I mean, versus past data we've had for North Shores. Was there a reason that North Shores has been separated from the county this time?
So North Shores has always been separated. It might not have been presented this way, but we do calculate their flows and bill them based on the AUP every year. Then we reconcile that at the end of the year.
Question.
Commissioner Saunders?
So that I'm straight on this, when in 2 years, 3 years, when we've paid for Phase 4, we will no longer be receiving the capital contributions?
So we would still receive capital contributions if we're spending capital. So it's just billed on a quarterly basis. So if we had some kind of minor repair, we don't think after Phase 4 we will need to really be doing many large capital projects at the wastewater plant. But ultimately, that is how the agreement is set up.
And it's possible that we'd be able to actually reduce rates for city residents, all things being equal.
You never know.
Excess funds. That's a diplomatic answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Just,
Commissioner.
thank you. Just, again, for clarification, this was talked about earlier on the fishing pier, the same thing. The Phase 4 upgrades are $4.5 million for this year, correct? Or the foreseeable?
That's correct.
And with the agreement, and we are responsible for that because we own the plant, but we have an agreement with Sussex County and also North Shores that they are contributing to that fund. So in essence, my figure's kind of loose here, but of the $4.5 million, the city is really only responsible for $1.44 million in this particular case.
That's
More or
correct.
less.
So what will happen is we'll get the bill from Ronca through GHD.
Right.
We'll pay it, and then we'll reconcile with the county every quarter. Now, in 2020, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
In 2028, I'll have to take a look at the number, because initially, there was a delay in the project. Since, as you all know, we only had the one bidder determining what to do, and also now that we're looking at doing the combined water building, that delayed the site plan a little bit. So that's why initially I had quite a bit more budgeted for FY 2027. But with this, we're able to lower it to 2020 to $4.5 million. However,
Next year.
next year it's $10 million. And then with the balance, most likely the balance in 2029.
But that formula, though, of contributions from Sussex County and North Shores still remains the same, so that we pay the bills, but then we have guaranteed revenues to cover portions of that.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Just because this is the first time seeing North Shores broken out separately, they are billed on a quarterly basis, like EDUs, or you used a different term, but are they billed separately for their portion, which now turns out to be 5% of Phase 4 of wastewater, or do you integrate it into their quarterly bills?
It's integrated in the quarterly bill, so it's not broken out separately.
Thank you.
So next, we wanted to talk about the wastewater operations highlights. So again, utilizes a lot of different chemicals. So we have our new belt filter press. So now that is being hauled to a permitted facility, the dump, and charged a disposal fee. So we have that expense. In this budget, we also have the outfall diver inspections that we do. If you've ever seen them out there, it's quite a sight. Then we have general maintenance with the filter panels, sewer saddles, vacuum truck nozzles, nutrients, effluent pumps, things of that nature. And then we also have the interest and principal payments on the loans that we have through the county, which are very low interest rates, but that is included in this operations side as well.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
So just to clarify with these numbers, the debt service at the moment is on, because if it's the plant, is it still at 42% county and 58% Rehoboth?
That's correct, yes.
So we can take, we only, fortunately, of this debt service are paying 58% of it?
Correct.
Great.
So for anything that we're not using debt for, that capital contribution is based on flow, but if it is debt, it's at that set rate.
Right, which was set like in 2017 or 2018. Right, thanks.
Mayor, if I could, please.
Sure there.
Just clarify where North Shores falls in this, the debt service question. And more specifically, right, so the county contract calls for them to pay 42%, but North Shores also covers a portion of that debt, which would be in addition to that 42%.
I believe North Shores contributed a portion of capital in the past as part of AUP billing, so it was incorporated in the previous billing to North Shores.
Okay, and it continues to be incorporated into their billings.
Correct, as long as the capital projects are happening. Or
Okay, but just, and again, just, right, because we really have two expenses here, two separate expenses. So we have the debt service, which was, that we're talking about up here, right? And that debt service, the county pays 42%. Then we also have what we're also referring to as capital contributions for Phase 4. So those are two separate expenses. So just sticking with debt service, right? Our principal and interest payment every year, the county sends us a check for 42% of that. North Shores also, my question is, does North Shores also send us money for their portion of that debt service?
correct, North Shores contributes
Okay.
towards capital.
So
And that would be,
ultimately,
go ahead, Tom.
I believe what occurs, so we bill them quarterly throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, our agreed upon procedures report then dictates how much we adjust their billing at the end of the year, dictating next year's billing numbers based on the projects that we completed.
And that's my understanding. This comes back to my point here is presentation, right? When we present that Sussex County covers 42%, the assumption from everyone is that Rehoboth Beach covers 58%, but that's not true, right? County's 42, North Shores is, let's say they're 5% plus or minus, which means the city of Rehoboth Beach then covers 52%. Thank you, Patrick. So again, it's presentation, right? Thank you.
Any other questions related to wastewater operations? So now we were looking at shifting gears a little bit and talking more about the schedule of fees and penalties. I'll go ahead and turn that over to Evan to touch on.
Thank you, Taylor. I'll just run through a couple of the changes that were made to the schedule of fees and penalties. I just want to remind the commission and members of the public that we were coming out of a budget meeting last Monday in preparation for the budget meeting we had today. So we had roughly 3 or 4 working days to prepare some revisions to this document. And so the changes that I went through are sort of a summary of those changes that we were able to compile over those few days. I want to draw your attention to page 24 of the actual schedule of fees and penalties. There were 2 changes made to the penalty section. One was Chapter 102, 1.1B to stormwater management, proposing a civil assessment of $1,000 and $2,500 for each subsequent offense related to any violation of stormwater management requirements. Obviously, that amount depends on or is pending the charter change to allow us to charge more than the $500. Additionally, Chapter 102-4, specifically Building Code Section 105.9, hours of construction, proposed there a civil assessment of $500 and then $2,000 for each subsequent offense. Moving down to page 28, there were 2 additional changes on this page. You'll see there that that is 10244.1B, again, stormwater management, civil assessment of up to $2,000 and then $2,500 for each subsequent offense. And then again, 10247, R105.11. So they're similar subjects, but they're different sections of building code. One is residential, the other's commercial. So again, similar here, civil assessment of $500 and $2,000 for each subsequent offense for hours of construction. I did want to just mention at the top of page 32, you'll see that Chapter 120, Section 19V, this is business license fees related to conjuration, dealing with spirits, divining, telling fortunes. In a previous iteration of the Schedule of Fees and Penalties, we were proposing to actually reduce these fees to bring them in alignment with the other building license fees. We're still proposing to do that. This track changes, for whatever reason, was rejected. So again, I think we would have proposed all of those fees to be reduced down to, I think it was $700. So that is a change that will be reflected again. It has been reflected in a previous iteration and will be reflected again in a future. And then finally, just related to the actual schedule itself, I have brought back in on page, it's actually at the end of the document, page 47. Page 47 captures, again, the fees that are not listed in the municipal code. One of the due outs that we had from the last meeting was, and it might have been 2 meetings ago, was to have a stronger look at convention center rates. So we were able to meet with Joe and the team to talk a little bit more about convention center rates. One of the things that we had talked about, you'll see a little bit further down, is there are fees that we will charge, for example, for an electric tour drop. So that's just a heavy-duty electric supply if there's a lot of sound equipment or other equipment that needs energy. There's also a trash fee and IT or internet. In most cases, trash and internet is being used with every event. And so it didn't make sense to bill those services separately. So what we've done is we've taken the $50 for trash, the $150 for IT, and we have actually incorporated them into new convention center rates at the top of the chart. So you'll see the convention center, this is for just a regular rental, Monday through Thursday, $800, Friday through Sunday, $1,700. We've also increased the convention center nonprofit rate again with those same increases for trash and IT, so $550 to $750, and then Friday through Sunday, $1,000 to $1,200. We actually propose to just eliminate the tour drop fee because I think there may be 1 or 2 events that possibly even use it, but it is sparingly used. I want to say maybe once or twice a year. And in most cases, what we're seeing is that those larger events are actually bringing in other vendors, Southwest Audio, Mid-Southwest Audio, I don't remember the name, but they're bringing in vendors to be able to supply everything that they need. So we just propose elimination of that. The biggest addition has been a prior day setup fee. So you all may recall that we were before you, might have been a month or so ago, about bandstand rates. And one of the things that we're trying to do here is actually capture some revenue to recoup our costs related to prior day setup or move-in. In most cases, we're seeing that these events, anybody that wants to rent the convention center is coming in a day before. They're requesting to move stuff in either an entire day before or a half a day before. We have staff that are here that need to make sure that the building's open, that can help them move things in, set up tables, et cetera, so that they're ready for their event day. So we proposed just a partial day, which is 4 hours or less, and then a full day, which is anything greater than 4 hours. So you'll see the rates there. Monday through Thursday, for the partial day, $200, full day, $400. And then Friday through Sunday, $425. And then for the full day, $850. And then we've taken those same rates and again have applied them to nonprofits as well. I think what we were looking at was for the full day move-in, it would just be half of the rental rate, a normal daily rental rate. And then for the half or partial day move-in, it would be a quarter of the rental rate. So that's all I had related to convention center fees. If you'd like, we can take a break here and I can answer any questions you might have. Or I would like to move into the next piece of it, which is some additional recommendations related to business license fees as it pertains to parking permits, any extension of a building permit beyond a year, and then some changes to fees related to businesses or restaurants that serve alcohol, specifically the license fee and a permit of compliance fee that is actually tied to the square footage.
Let's entertain questions on the convention center.
Sure.
Before we go move forward. Commissioner Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. Evan, in terms of the process by which you arrived at the rates for the convention center, I presume you use some formula related to man-hours that it takes, because that's pulling these employees off of doing whatever else they're doing for the city?
Yeah, so again, we hadn't really analyzed sort of staff time, only because every event is going to be different and every situation is going to be different. We may need one person here, we may need everybody here. And so I think we took, at least for this meeting, we took more of the simplistic route, and that is, again, taking the fees that we charge for some of these services that we're providing to everybody, the trash and IT, lumping that into now the rental rate, and then for the move-in, it's just 50% of that or a quarter of that based on how much time they're using the day before. So to answer your question, we have not done a full-blown analysis of actual costs related to managing some of these events, because again, as we kind of sat around the room, it was really difficult for us to kind of quantify what that could cost the city, again, because every event, size, scale, what they need, it changes a lot, so.
Would it be possible for next year for you to compile how many people staff every event? So when we come back to next year, we'll have data that can drive the fees?
Sure, I think that's something that we can absolutely look into, capturing more of that data.
Commissioner Gossett?
Yes, following along. So if I understand this, we're really not increasing the rate of the convention center rental. We're just taking existing charges that we normally charge a client and wrapping them into that. Right. So that there is no actual increase in it. But I would appreciate, as Commissioner Stewart has suggested, that we also consider, which is a common practice, of a labor rate, so that there's additional, we have a minimal staffing that is received with that baseline rental for the day, and that includes X number of man hours. But beyond that, there is a labor rate charged for that. And I know it can become cumbersome of tracking hourly rates or what have you of individuals, but it's based on a man-hour charge that should be added above the minimal staffing. For that $800, you get X number of staff members for whatever, but beyond that, it is an additional hourly labor rate.
And Mayor?
Commissioner Stewart?
Just following on to that, I'm presuming there are repeat customers. So specifically, those are easy to track. Right. If you pay, really record how long it took, how many people were involved. So that's a good baseline for a handful or however many, but okay.
If I also could ask, will there be an opportunity at some point between now, perhaps and next budget cycle, to review the actual fees, not necessarily dollar amount, but the applicability of some of these fees that really are no longer utilized? I mean, there's a fee in here, or a penalty in here for the misuse of a white cane. Right. So again, these are antiquated, and it's not.
It's important.
But to some people it is, but for a $5 charge, I think it costs more to enforce it than it does to actually have it on the books. So again, over the next budget cycle, if those could be reviewed for current applicability, and maybe we're missing some things that should be in here.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. That is sort of what I view as some next steps related to the schedule of fees and penalties. That is, as I mentioned at the last meeting, taking a look at a lot of the traffic penalties, mostly a lot of the police penalties that we impose or fines that we impose, and trying to align those with the state, and then also removing any fees or penalties that just are not really applicable anymore.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
So with that, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Shinko, Director of the Building and Licensing Department. Again, we have come back to you all with some considerations related to some of the comments that we had at the last meeting with respect to some of the fees that are charged by the Building and Licensing Department.
Did any members of the public have any questions? No, okay. You sure? Okay. Go ahead, Corey.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. These are the product of a few due-outs that came from the last budget meeting or two.
Oh, hold on, let me,
It's the, should be
are we going to this?
yeah, the last support document in the agenda. There it is.
This page, right?
Yes, Mayor.
What page number?
Would you mind using the lectern so the audience can see you too? Page 94 of the packet.
Of the packet, yeah.
Just looking for the mouse.
Oh,
Oh,
Taylor has it.
I'm scrolling here.
Oh, you'll control it, okay.
Yeah, I don't know that we have it for him, do we?
Yeah, we have it.
There's only 3 of them, so it should be simple. I'll talk to the first point. Thank you. So if you recall, one of the things that you had tasked us to look into for consideration is building permit extensions. And not just a simple nominal fee, but something that would act as a deterrent. We did take a look at multiple other municipalities in the state of Delaware, as well as some in Maryland, and what we found was that by and large, they didn't serve as a deterrent. They were nominal fees, $50, $30, and the municipality, wherever that may be, would grant an extension. We took an approach here I'll start with the residential model. Permits are valid for 1 year, and then anything beyond that requires a written request by the applicant or by the permit holder for an extension. We can grant 180-day extensions at a time. We don't have a cap on that, and there is no cap in the building code. It's at the discretion of the building official. We could make that change. That would take an ordinance to do that. But what this is structured is to make sure that they don't go for more than a few extensions at the most. This first one here, I'll take a simple example. It's a new home build, let's say, and it's $1 million. Well, the permit fee for that would be $20,000 for just the building permit, not review fees and all that, but because there are other fees that go along with it. And that's valid for 1 year. If they can't get the house done in 1 year, then if they want to extend, it would be 25%, so $5,000 would be the case. If they couldn't get it done in a year and a half, then they're going to pay 50% with this, which would be $10,000. So we feel this is a large enough deterrent for residential projects with this tiered system. And then obviously when they get to the third or fourth, that would be a very, very costly for the applicant and for the contractor. So we believe that if we were to make any recommendations with the intent of deterrence, this is the path we would recommend. We can be flexible with these, but this is to serve as a conversation starter. Commercial activities.
So let's take these one at a time, if that's all right, in case anybody has any questions. In terms of the extension is an automatic one. You're not determining whether to issue it or not, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, Mayor, if the permit is, if it's a smaller job and it's lost and forgotten, and it's something for repair work or something like that, and they get the job done, and then they just never track to put in a final inspection, that permit is expired at that point, and they'd have to reapply. This is for those cases, so they would go right to reapply for the permit.
This is just a simple a letter requesting an
Correct.
extension.
If they need to, if they know that it's a larger project and for whatever reason that maybe they won't be able to have their project completed on time, they send us an email in writing. It has to be in writing. And then we can make that change in Munis in our system.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Galante?
Corey, thanks for all the work that you put into this. As I'm looking at this, I think these really do create significant deterrence for extending beyond a year. I mean, $5,000 for the first increase is a sizable additional fee that a resident would be required to pay. I'm just kind of curious from a numbers perspective, what percentage of building permits typically go beyond a year? Do we have just a general sense? And then even beyond, 180 days, are there ones that stay open for longer periods of time? Or is that just a real anomaly?
There are, and a lot of that, the majority of it is the backlog from the COVID years. We've been taking strides, and we started that process years ago. Everything was no contact back then. It's better nowadays, but you'll notice in the building and licensing and code enforcement reports, there's permit closeouts in the code enforcement section. Those are permits that we've gone through, the department has. We've looked at all these permits that we haven't penalized them. These were ones that were opened in, the years 2020 to 2022-ish when things were still pretty closed down, and there were a lot of them. But we reach out, we make contact with the property owners, the permit holders, to close out those permits. There are permits, there always will be, that fall through the cracks. And so with this in mind, with the adoption of this, depending on how far out the permit has either been expired, they'll either reapply for the same permit again, or we can grant them an extension with the renewal fee.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks. I know we're just talking about a proposal right now, but this would represent some significant costs for our residents if this was to go through. So, and I understand why we're doing it. So, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Schenko. I'm just a little concerned, given past labor shortages, weather factors, that I'd hate to have people have to resort to, say, applying to the Board of Adjustment or something if they need the extension for legitimate reasons. What sort of system do we have in place to, be reasonable with builders and their clients if they encounter, a lot of unforeseen circumstances which do push them beyond the 12 months?
Well, first, I'd like you to address her comment about the Board of Adjustment, because I don't think there was a relationship there.
No, so the Board of Adjustment would hear cases that are from our zoning chapter 270. This would be related to the length of the permit, the
Right, so
validity
that
of
was
it.
a bad suggestion, but, it seems like there should be a mechanism to appeal if there were houses I observed where the custom windows, due to the problems at the plant in Ohio, due to labor shortages or material shortages, really the homeowner and the contractor had little control. I just want to know I'd like building and licensing to view the customers, the applicants as their customers and have a more customer-friendly approach. I just am concerned that these may be draconian in light of special circumstances.
Mayor?
Commissioner Saunders?
I understand what Commissioner Good is saying, but I want to remind them that the neighbor is also a customer. The neighbor that's put up with this for 12 months already doesn't need to put up with any more. And I think we need every incentive possible to get this thing built so that the surrounding neighborhood can go back to normal. So they're all the customers. Thank you.
Mayor, if I could. Mayor, if I
Commissioner
could.
Thayer?
Yeah, when I look at this, and I'm not criticizing your 180-day extensions, this is really just a point, right? So you're giving them a year and a half with, basically, a year and a half to complete the project and only have to pay, in your example, an additional $5,000. So I don't see that as unreasonable. I maybe would make the argument they should be 90-day extensions, but 180 is probably a good place to start.
Commissioner Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. So Corey, if an expired permit comes to your attention and we're in the 4th zone because it fell through the cracks, do they have to pay 100%? Or do they pay each tier and 100%? Because a project that gets delayed by a year and a half pays 25%, and then that same project may, on top of that, be paying 50%, and then on top of that may be paying 75%, and then another 100%. So if you identify a fallen through the crack permit, and the project's still going on, and we're at the 4th 180-day extension, do they just pay 100%, or do they pay all those prior stages and 100? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I think we need to address that, figure out how that works.
If I can, just to some of these points. First, Commissioner Thayer, the 180 days comes from our adopted building code. So every one of our building code books in Chapter 1, the administration, it grants the authority to the building official for extensions of 180 days each. That's where that comes from. And Commissioner Good, your point's valid, and I would say that is the status quo and has been the status quo until we presented this today. We have generally tried, and we do try to work with contractors, also being mindful of the neighbors, though. And I don't know where an appeals process would fit in, as well as trying to close up any possible loopholes for that system. But we have been, and it's been the main operating of building and licensing to work with the contractors to make sure they get the job done. And currently, if they want to request an extension, there's no cost to it right now. So this was an attempt to add a level of deterrence in, and we can take a look at both of those things from Commissioner Stewart, your side on how these compound. Because there isn't language and shown for that here, as well as Commissioner Good, a possible appeals process.
Or maybe not, maybe not a full-blown appeals process, but a grace period if, like, you and your staff assessed the reason for the delay, and then maybe we could set a grace period of 30 or 60 days beyond the original permit. I just feel as though we have a reputation for being somewhat unfriendly toward contractors and, builders. And some of them are reluctant to work in this town. I think we all know that. So I'm just worried this could be a bit draconian, again, but there'd have to be legitimate reasons, a hurricane, whatever the circumstances are, or right now the labor market has some wiggle room. So it's not, but what was it, back in 2021, there were severe labor shortages, which were causing builders like months, sometimes months of delays, even to get like someone to do tile work. I'm not saying the country will necessarily go back there, but I feel this is a little rigid, and we need, I'd call it a grace period. I don't know whether anyone else, a grace period of, say, 30 days if the applicant can list the concrete reasons and, for instance, dates that they expect materials to be delivered so they can complete the work, rather than assess them 25% of the original permit fee from the jump.
Yeah, I have trouble with grace periods sometimes, what's the point in putting a grace period in there? Why not just build it in there? Instead of 90 days, it's 120 days or something.
Well, I understand that. But I think the contractors have an incentive to get they have such a huge incentive to complete the work. They often aren't going to go to closing with the client until the house is complete. So,
Thank you,
but,
thank you, Suzanne. I would like to make a point that all these use fees and everything, they're changing everything, do not have to be voted on. We've got time, we can vote on them and spend more time on them if we choose after the budget is adopted. Same thing with one of the three topics here, the building permit extensions. There's no requirement that has to be completed and finished by the time we vote for the agenda. When are we voting? March regular meeting, right? So that's our target date. So anyhow, that's the point. Commissioner Saunders?
I just want to remind you that this is after a year. They have a year. I don't think they need a single day after a year without being penalized. And in most cases, if you talk to builders, I would think they would tell you that the reason that they were delayed is the owner's fault. The owner changed their minds, they didn't get their financing, they didn't bring in whatever they were supposed to bring in, they didn't pick out the color of the toilets, whatever it may be. So I don't think we have to give them a single day beyond the year without a penalty. Just my opinion.
Mr. Mayor?
I built my house during COVID, and we had to change tiles, or else we had to wait an extra half a year for them or something. So we understand that there's certain circumstances that'll happen, but
Mr. Mayor?
otherwise, I would suggest the rigidity there. Go ahead.
Am I correct that Mr. Tedder would be able to override any of these regardless? You would have the right to, if it was really unusual, perhaps we could write that in, that the city manager would have the right in the extremely rare and unusual condition.
Yeah, I'd have to take a look at the code. I don't think I can do that at this time, but we can take a look at the code, yeah.
Mayor?
Commissioner Gossett?
Thank you. I don't want to burden the staff with more work, if you will, but kind of an alternative to this, as opposed to a grace period or something of this nature, and don't need an answer now, but could you explore with our software system, Munis, if we have the capability of saying a 60-day out from the expiration date of the permit for a letter to go to either the homeowner and the builder to say, your permit is expiring in 60 days, be aware of that. Here are the consequences or the additional costs that you may experience, so that we are alerting them in advance so that they can react to it and prepare for it, as opposed to your building, it expired today, you got to get an extension type of thing. Just look into that if that's an opportunity that to be more user-friendly in that regard.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Commissioner Good?
So, Mr. Schenko, that's why I think maybe you'll be addressing this in the commercial, in the second segment with the commercial, but just a concrete example would be 1 Rehoboth Avenue, that when they discovered being as close to the property just to the west as, I guess, the Admiral, they didn't feel that was stable. So they've had to go back and, rework their architectural drawings. To me, that was perfectly legitimate. And it was unfortunate for everybody, for the city, for them, for everybody. But when it says administrative review, to me, that's like a good example of where those were circumstances beyond the developer's control. And I feel like financial penalties just add to their hardship, because they've had to have the architectural firm redo the plans. It's sort of compounding the hardship.
They don't have a building permit.
Yeah, so they haven't been issued a building permit yet, so they've been currently operating under their demolition permit.
Okay, so in that case,
If I could shed a little light on some of, I want to, before we move into commercial, are there any other questions for the residential side?
Carolyn, hey, first customer.
Mike's on.
Is that microphone on?
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. I think there would probably be an implementation period, like somebody who got a building permit 11 months ago, you might not charge them right away, but here's why I think you need something. We have a renovation next door. They're not up yet with their year. It looks like they're going to get finished, but there has been more days over the last 10 and a half months that nobody is there working on it. And I know the same builder has another house that's well beyond the year. My hope in this is that you won't have builders taking on too many projects that they can't get them all done. I don't know about here, but up in Newcastle County, if a contractor takes on, depending on their size, they're limited to how many projects they're allowed to take on. And there's been contractors up there that have gone to jail because they've taken on too many projects. So I would hope that some of what this does is doesn't have them take on more than they're capable of handling in the amount of time that they're allotted to finish the project. Granted, my renovation was done 10 years ago, but we had a much more significant renovation that was done in 9 months versus the one next door that is bumping up on, I think they're almost at 11 months. So I worry that contractors and builders are taking on more than they can really handle, and that's why things aren't getting finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. That reminds me of the situation, we'll call it the trailer house, that they're doing the construction themselves, and because they're doing it themselves and not using a contractor, the time frame might be 4 times longer than otherwise.
Mayor, if I,
Commissioner Johnson.
just also, as we continue this discussion, no decisions made today, but it would be possible when we just continue the discussions to have some data of actually how many permits have been extended beyond a year, say for the last 18 to 24 months, so that we have some factual data that help us make a decision on this?
We can look into that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Go ahead.
Okay, well, with that, I'll move on to the commercial. And yes, like we've been stating all along, this is a rough draft. This is for you to kind of see. This is different than the residential model. I wanted, commissioners, for you to see what a square footage tier looks like. And this is a concept too that we can use in more than just this form. It can be done in reviews and many other things too, as a tiered system rather than a flat fee or a set flat percentage. Commercial activities on the project size here, and they go from equal to or less than 5,000 square feet. Those are going to be all of your. You have a condo, and it's a smaller condo when you're doing some work inside of it, or it's a very smaller project. 5,000 to 25,000 square feet, we're getting into those sizes where it's on a larger lot or it's maybe a smaller portion of 2 floors in a commercial building. 25,000 to 75,000 square feet is going to be what you see like with One Rehoboth or the Bellhaven Hotel, what the square footage is for a single floor. So that would be something along those lines. It's a much bigger building, and it's one single floor, or it's a medium-sized building, and they're doing work on 2 floors, so to speak. 75,000 square feet and above are going to be our major projects. And this is structured in such a way with the knowledge that many of the larger projects are going to be phased. They will not, while they may come in as one singular permit, the larger the project, there's usually a supportive excavation permit, and then a foundation permit, and then a structural build-out permit, and then we get into all the finishings. So they may phase it that way. If they don't, What this does here, well, I'll start like with a very large project. This is going in under the knowledge that we already received 3% of a very expensive permit. And so the essence here wasn't necessarily to deter them, but to simply recoup the administrative costs and to have a price there for a very large project like at the new hotel. If it did come in one permit, $2,000 would be for an extension. $4,000 would be for a second extension, $6,000 for a third, and then the fourth one would be for administrative review. That's there to, when we have a discussion with them, and to possibly segment out portions of what the initial permit held to any additional work orders, any additional scopes, which would be rather than an addendum to the permit, it would be additional permits. They, of course, have that option all along, but that administrative review is to have that conversation with them. There's no set price tag for it. And again, this was for conversations today. And it jumps down a bit between the $25,000 to $75,000, $1,000, $2,000, and $3,000 in admin review. These are a bit more lenient, these two on the bottom categories, with the understanding, too, that they're a little different than the smaller projects and absolutely different than the residential projects because they hinge on outside agency approvals, outside agency inspections. So they're not just dealing with the city, they're dealing with DENREC, they're dealing with Sussex Conservation District, Fire Marshal, and HHS, Health and Human Services, some types of those inspections. So they're not just dealing with us. So we thought, in fairness for those larger projects that have to go through those outside agency approvals and inspections along the way, to simply have money in here where there is none right now. Again, we don't have any fees for anything, any extensions of any kind, to be a bit more lenient in those projects as they work forward with the city as well as with other agencies, but to recoup some money for those extensions. And then to have, if you see the $5,000 to $25,000, that is essentially the same as the residential model. And the less than $5,000 is a bit more, it's more aggressive. And I just wanted to show you that today for different models that we could take. And I'd be open for any questions.
Commissioner Saunders?
I think those are way, way too little. They're minuscule. These large, the 75,000 are disruptive to the entire city. I think it's sinful to make those small figures. I mean, I would put another zero on those. I really think that we're forgetting the traffic and the police protection that we have to supply, and the worrying about all of the safety measures and the fencing, and how many times do our inspectors have to go by? And we're paying inspectors on a regular basis, and to charge them $1,000, I'd vote for adding another zero to all of those. Okay. Susan? Oh, I'm sorry, it's not me.
Mayor?
Commissioner Stewart?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to be rewarded for following the process, but I keep getting buried behind people. I would like to see the commercial. I don't know what the numbers are, but if commercial is going to never take a year, if there are different milestones, why are we hewing to year stages? Does that make sense? So if we think a 25,000 square foot project reasonably can complete it in 3 years, why doesn't a substantial penalty for going longer exist and condense these for commercial? Does that make sense?
It does. We'll take a look at that.
Okay.
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just for clarification, now are these residential model and commercial alternative, are these that definition based on use or based on the zoning code that structure will be built in?
That's a good question. We do have several properties that are zoned commercial but are used residential. This one was done under the assumption of the district, not the use of the building.
Okay.
But that's something we could consider.
Because we're also proposing mixed use, so again, just trying to look forward and how it's best understood by the applicant and enforcement.
I will bring just a little clarity. So even for use, we have our residential code and then our commercial code. And the residential, though it may appear like it's residential in use because people are just living there, the residential uses are only valid for single-family dwellings or duplexes or townhouses that are 3 stories or less. Everything else, and that would include this missing middle that we're considering, these mixed-use occupancies, would all be, even intuitively, you would think it would be residential use, it would still be commercial use in mind.
Mr. Mayor?
I think this would be a good candidate for pushing off to a future agenda. I don't know that the very next meeting gives him enough time to do his research, so maybe 2 meetings from now, but I would suggest that. Commissioner Good?
Yeah, I appreciate Commissioner Saunders bringing up. I didn't realize until I looked at it more closely that, if you're dividing major commercial projects, 20, including 75,000 square feet or above, into as many as like a dozen different building permits, you're saying, like one for the foundation. These aren't deterrents if that's what you're looking for. So once those are raised, at least some consideration for some forgiveness, though, for weather calamities. I hope other people feel that there should be some consideration and that building and licensing should have some leeway on, catastrophic events, total changes in the labor market, things that adversely affect a project that is beyond their control. So if we do raise the penalties at the same time, have a path out of it, maybe with your approval, and possibly going before some some group of your staff evaluating it, But I appreciate, if you would rework this. And also, for instance, on a major hotel like the forthcoming Bellhaven, approximately how many different building permits would you anticipate that project would be under?
It's difficult to say. The construction of itself, we would separate it into the different trades for those specifics. Every single tenant fit out would have its own for every single business that wanted to go in and move in. There could be solar panel permits, other antenna permits that have different regulations with those reviews. It's difficult to anticipate the number, but I do anticipate with confidence that it will be more than one, without a doubt.
All right, well, let's push. Go ahead.
Thank you. You had mentioned something related to this a little bit earlier, and I view this, and I've spoken with both Taylor and Evan, the fees and penalties, I view this as a work in progress, right? This is, many of these have not been changed literally in, years. So I don't think it's reasonable to expect that we're going to get through and update all the fees and penalties during this budget cycle. So to me, it's a work in progress, which comes back to I just want to clarify or question for you, right? So you had said, we're probably not ready to address, I think you were referring to commercial, because I'm pretty comfortable with residential. I think we could move forward with what is on residential. I think Commissioner Saunders, Commissioner Stewart bring up some really good points on commercial. That probably needs some more work, but my point is I think we could probably break those up, move forward with residential soon, right, in the budget cycle, and maybe commercial takes a little bit longer because it is complex. So, thank you. That was my point.
We'll take that into consideration. Thank you, Corey. You good?
And I would offer that these fees aren't necessarily about revenue generation; they're about process improvement. So it will be a work in progress. But I think, do you want to go ahead and talk about the other two? I think
right here.
So moving to liquor license.
Yeah. Next.
The second one here had to do with, I think it was in particular that was mentioned at the prior meeting, restaurants. But it's a good template or symbol that we could use for other applications, whether that be site plan review, change of zone requests, and obviously permit of compliance, what's shown here. This first one just moved the annual license fee for businesses, a business license that serve alcohol, from $750 to $1,000. This is a suggestion. It's for discussion and consideration, but this is one that was spurred from conversation at the last budget hearing. This next one shows again, it's a square footage tier. And this is what we would like to show in future meetings too on reviews for a number of different projects, different applications. And that is, the higher the square footage, the more complex the review, the deeper the review goes, and therefore it's more time. It takes more time. What this shows here is total. These numbers here for a permit of compliance, it's not the size, complete size of the restaurant. It's just the total permanently seated dining area, plus the bar area, plus if they have a dining patio, and also any public dining. So those are the points that incur the most review that we're looking at from our use regulations section of code, in addition to the restaurant chapter. This does not account for bathrooms, and hallways, and kitchens. Those are really there just as part of the restaurant, but we're not looking at those from a compliance standpoint, not from a zoning standpoint. And so currently, the fee is $1,250, $1,250 across the board, whether it be for a small 400 square foot restaurant that's off of one of our C2 or C3 streets, or it's for an extremely large restaurant with a bar that's part of a hotel that can be even larger, that might have an outdoor dining with supplemental permit of compliance, that also might have dining on public space that has its own review guidelines. And this is so that those reviews, which take a significantly less amount of time, stay where they're at, and then as we scale up, the review scales up, going up to a little over 3,500, and you get into that range only if you're a restaurant in a hotel where there's more leniency for the square footage, and you possibly also have 1,000 square foot dining patio. So that's the max that Rehoboth would allow off of our zoning code, and that scales up to $3,000. So we wanted to show you this as a template to as an increase in review time that scales with square footages.
Corey, you title this liquor license. Is that the accurate description for that? Isn't this just a business license?
The business license is for number 3 with that, but this one was put out simply for the conversation at the last budget hearing in talking with restaurants in particular, and even particularly those restaurants that serve alcohol.
Yeah, so if I could just add one thing, Mayor, so that would be for any establishment that has the sale of alcoholic liquors for consumption on premise. I did want to clarify too, so we have it listed current $750, that's currently proposed $750. So aside from the schedule of fees and penalties, the recommendations contained therein, a license for an establishment for the sale of liquor is $650 right now. The proposed changes we've included bring it up to $750. Based on some of the comments at the last meeting, we were proposing to go up to $1,000 for your consideration.
So really, the cost for a restaurant to sell alcohol is $650 now.
Currently, yes.
Proposed to go to $750. But they've also got to add the permanent compliance fee. So there's a kind of a package fee there for, okay. Susan?
So have we looked at other jurisdictions that are sort of similar to us and look at their liquor license fees?
I have not. I don't know if Corey has. I think that's something that we can do for a future meeting. The other thing that we are working on, which we'll probably be able to provide for the next meeting, is we have talked about business licenses by type and possibly looking at the top 5, top 10. We've already pulled some of that data preliminarily a few months ago. So we have that information now, and we can provide that at a future meeting. And
I
that's
think that's important.
Yes, sure.
Because
just for,
I'd like to know that we're sort of around our peers and our contemporaries in terms of that licensing. Sure.
Yeah, we're not necessarily comparing apples to apples. For instance, I think there's only 5 or so municipalities in Delaware that use the permanent compliance system. Dewey Beach does not. Anybody that wants to be licensed to sell alcohol in Dewey Beach goes straight to the alcohol commissioner for the state. So they don't have it. And there's other, I think Newark maybe, and Wilmington, a few others have the permanent compliance. And there's good reasons to do that, but I'm not going to get into that today. But so when we start comparing prices,
Okay.
maybe that's part of the formula, I don't know.
May I ask a question, follow on? Is
Yes,
that,
and
is
then-
that, sorry, Mayor.
No, go ahead.
Is that then, are you saying that our businesses here that sell liquor would pay us and then have to go pay the state as well? Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm not suggesting that is the
Okay.
process. Yeah,
Can
they have to have a
you
business
educate us
license.
on that?
They have to have a
And I will
business
add-
license and then a permanent compliance, and then after they receive their permission from the city, then they can seek the state, ultimately, the state has to approve the liquor license.
And so for the state, for an on-premise retail license for a restaurant, it's $1,000. So it's that permit cost plus our permit cost, plus business license, other, yeah.
Mayor?
Commissioner
Saunders.
Saunders.
I love the tiered system that we have for the permits of compliance. I'm wondering if we could apply that also to the annual license, considering that all restaurants aren't the same size. Some bars maybe have 6 stools or something, whereas others have 40 stools. I'd love to see that tiered system go to the annual license and also with similar numbers. Just a suggestion.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Thayer.
Thank you. Just to clarify my or what I think my understanding is. So if you are let's take a restaurant that serves liquor, currently you have to have a business license and you need to have a quote-unquote liquor license. Do we call it a liquor license or do we call it something else?
Permit of compliance, certificate of compliance,
Okay.
issued by the city. And then again, the third level is you go to the state.
Okay, so just to be clear here, right? So you're a restaurant, you need a business license, regardless of whether you serve liquor or you don't have liquor, you have a business license. Okay. Permit of compliance, that only occurs when you first open the business.
or you're doing renovations.
Or you do renovations, so it's essentially a one-time fee unless you do renovations. Again, I just want to be clear here, okay? And then the annual, again, this is kind of probably where I'm getting confused in the language that's used up there, it's set up. Then we have an annual license fee. So that is specific to a restaurant or an establishment that serves liquor on site, and that is annual.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
the annual license, that's the business fee, the business license fee.
Okay, so there's not a
One in
separate
the-
business
they're
license
one
fee.
in the- Yes, they're
Business
one in the
license
same.
fee.
They're one and the
You
same.
were
Okay, all
duplicating.
right, got it. So this annual license fee, this is your business license. If you serve liquor, it's $650 today, was proposed as $750, maybe it's $1,000. Okay, that's annual. And then the permanent compliance is one time when you open the restaurant or if you're going to do renovations. Just to be, I just want to be clear, okay? So, thank you.
Okay. If there are no further
You want to move?
questions, I'll move on to the last one.
To number 3, I guess.
And this one also, again, comes from one of the due outs from the last budget hearing, and that is business licenses and how they relate to parking passes, parking permits. This is an add-on model. So what this shows is there is a base business license, whatever that may be, based off of the schedule of penalties and fees. And then instead of getting an immediate transferable parking pass or parking permit, which currently is, and Evan, please correct me if I'm wrong, $325, you would have the option of getting one for a discounted price shown here at $260. And this would be across the board for all base business licenses. And currently in the city, we have, just because I know we're building a license, been going through the annual renewal process, there's a little over 3,000 business licenses registered in the city.
My first thought when this came up was just remove all parking permits from all licenses, period. And so I'm not comfortable with that necessarily, or with this. I'd like to hear what others have to say.
Right.
This is a little more work because, you know,
And I think Evan has some great data. I don't know if you're able to share a little bit about what we discussed yesterday, but it's very eye-opening about how many permits we're providing for free. So it is an interesting concept to look at having the add-on or, you know, moving away from just giving them away.
Sure. So we actually pulled some of this data a while back as we were starting to scope the virtual parking permit program, because at the time the vendor wanted to know how many permits we issue for free. So in the code, just to clarify a little bit, so anybody who obtains a business license is eligible for a free parking permit when they obtain that license. There's a different situation where if they are also the property owner and the business owner, then they would be able to get the free permits under the property owner provision. Property owners receive the 2 free transferable parking permits and then a free non-transferable permit for every vehicle registered in their name. So a while back, I did reach out to the Building and Licensing Department. In 2025, at the time that we had received this information, there were roughly 1,454 permits that were issued for free via the Building and Licensing Office. In 2024, they had issued 1,480 permits. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think at one point when I had calculated the total number of free permits issued by the city, that is to property owners, residents, and business owners, it was over 11,000 permits. So that gives a little bit more context. Again, really, the recommendation here of the discount, 20% discount for a parking permit, is just something for you all to consider, just something for us to discuss. Again, we just kind of wanted to put something on the table for discussion.
And I do want to just clarify for everyone in the room that we're just talking about the business
Correct.
license complimentary pass, not residents.
Correct.
Mayor, if I may?
Commissioner Stewart?
By my math, that's almost $473,000 in free permits to businesses. To what dollar amount?
That's not based on the 11,000 free permits.
That's based on 1,454 free permits in 2025 at $325 apiece.
Okay.
So it's 472,550,000.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
But let's be cautious here. If you were to stop handing these out, it doesn't mean that just as many business owners would purchase those permits. We're not going to net anything close to, you know, almost 500,000. They'll, in addition to Rehoboth Elementary being an option for them, they may alter schedules and make sure more employees are only working beginning at 5 p.m. when at the moment they can park, they don't need a permit. So, you know, I just want to, I'm concerned that we've done this in the past. Sometimes when we assume, like, when we raise the cost of the permits, the calculations showed somehow we sell as many permits. Well, that never happens. People make other arrangements, and more employees are willing to park at the elementary school, which I believe is an option to them beginning the second week of June. Mr. Tedder, would you confirm that they, from the second week of June until maybe the last week of August, there's complimentary parking at the elementary school?
I know that's been done before in conjunction with Main Street and perhaps the Chamber. I'm seeing head nods, so I don't know about this upcoming season, but I think yes.
Well, just to, I don't think that these same people will buy the just over 1,400 permits once they're no longer complimentary. I don't know what the solution is, but I personally think the business climate right now is challenging. Like, I think this can be a bad time to start imposing new taxes and fees. I've always been more concerned about reducing spending, including just in general, like why our Ring Central telephone has gone up 75% fiscal year 2027 versus the current fiscal year that's about to end, fiscal year 2026. Why this would be a time where, raising certain salary and communications by 61%. We're doing a lot of things that show we're not serious about reining in spending, and instead trying to turn to raising more revenue when there are a lot of empty storefronts. There's an economic climate right now which makes that a little problematic to me. But
Mayor, if I may,
Commissioner Gossett.
just if you have this information, Mr. Miller, when was the parking permit program introduced to the city? Do you remember what year, or could you determine what year?
I think
The article for the parking permit system, it looks like it was added in 1996.
1996?
Yes.
And have there been any substantial updates to the program since that time?
There have been. I would have to go back through and do a little bit of research. So specifically, Section 92-263 is the issuing of parking permits. At a quick glance, I'm seeing 11 or 12 ordinances amending that section. I think at one point there had been changes. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago to that section.
Primarily, though, in fees, not in
I think
distribution?
primarily in fees. So it looks like there was an ordinance in 2025, 2024, another one in 2024, 2022. So there's been some recent amendments. I'll have to look through
Yeah.
the ordinances and summarize.
Primarily, there's been tweaks to it over 30 years.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Saunders.
I think we're having this discussion because we have to realize that the businesses disproportionately use our services. I mean, the cost, the number of policemen we have, the size of our sewer pipes, everything is built, and the costs are derived from, the vast majority of it is from our businesses. So to ask our businesses to pay a little bit more business fee, considering we don't have a restaurant tax, we do get a hotel tax, but not as much as some other towns our size. They do bring in parking revenue, but all in all, I think we are a bargain to our businesses, and I think they're flourishing. I disagree with Commissioner Good that they're not doing well. Maybe a few are, but I can't go to a restaurant in February and not get a line, on a Saturday at any rate. So I think our businesses are doing quite well, quite honestly, and to ask them to pay a little bit more to keep our city services at the high caliber that they expect, I don't think is too much to ask. So.
And I do want to just point out that at the end of the day, the reason that we brought this forward to bring to your attention is most business licenses are about $325, which coincidentally is the same price as a parking permit. So it's really just looking at the equitable solution here of where to go. I do see we've got a question.
Mike, and then Carolyn. Oh, Kate, did you want to speak? Oh, okay. Introduce yourself.
Yep, Mike Venanzi, Above the Dunes. Flourishing is quite a term, but that's a different topic. 1,454 parking permits for businesses. I don't know the last time anybody walked around and counted brick and mortar businesses in town, But there has to be a separation between brick and mortar businesses and 1,454 parking permits for businesses. Where does that number come from? Because there's got to be a difference between the two, right? It's my understanding every realtor has to have a business license. Everybody that does business in town has to have a business license. So you have a lot of people that we're giving parking permits to that don't do business every day down here, right? The benefit of that parking permit is so that I can reward one of my employees with the ability to park 4 or 5 blocks away from my business and not have to pay a fee, right? There's no benefit to it. It's not a golden ticket like in some towns where if you have that parking permit, you can park at any meter. You can park anywhere you want. So I just would like to see us tease out, because that sounds like a huge number, right? And I think then when you do the math, like Commissioner Stewart did, it sounds even bigger. But that's not realistic as far as actual businesses that operate the lifeblood of the city. So I would just like to see that tangible number of actual brick and mortar. So
Thank you, Mike. Carolyn, and then you, and then Kate, and then the lady behind you.
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. I think Mike has a point, and I guess this is kind of a question, which I know you may not be able to answer, but the buildings that a lot of our businesses are owned by somebody else. Is the property owner of the building also getting parking passes?
Yes.
That's where I think the issue is. If we're giving free parking passes to the owners of those buildings and 100% of the buildings are leased by businesses, maybe we shouldn't be giving free property passes to the landlord. We should be looking at the brick and mortar to give them to, because the property owner doesn't need those. They might argue that they do, but I know some of our landlords also live in town, so they're getting them for their residential home, and then they're getting them for the brick and mortar buildings that they lease. I'm sure we're not giving them more than one sticker, non-transferable, because that's based on a license plate. But they may be getting more transferables than what they really need because they own both. The other thing that I will mention, because I just Googled it, and I wish Commissioner Stewart were here, but a restaurant that serves alcohol in Lewis is only paying $410 for their business license. So if we're going to look at the surrounding towns, we may want to, look at Lewis and some of the others to see, because if we're pricing ourselves out of the market, and not that there's as many spaces in Lewis, but I don't think we want to be pricing ourselves out of the market either for these businesses, because they do make the town special. Thank you.
You said you wish Commissioner Stewart
So-
was here, so.
Since you just got here, you asked one of the questions you asked was about the surrounding towns, and I Googled what a restaurant serving alcohol pays in Lewis for their business license, and it's $410.
Okay.
I didn't get to the point of knowing if they have to do a permitted compliance and that, but I Googled their business license, so it's a lot less. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate? It's too bad we don't have somebody around that was around in 96. I came in 98, so I came afterward. Curious, what would be the rationale for having given out permits? One would be if you have a in-town store for the employees to use. But I've always thought it would be for the plumber that lives or works outside of town. His business is out in the country somewhere, and he wants to come into town and park, and he gets that free permit. So again, I don't know what the rationale is, but I'm curious. Kate?
I'm seeing Carol next week, Stan, so I'll ask her.
All right.
So my name is Kate Van Vorst. I'm the president and CEO of the Rehoboth Beach, Dewey Beach Chamber of Commerce. The chamber, representing its board of directors and business members, would like to voice our opposition to the recommended increases and fee changes presented today, specifically items 2 and 3 of the Building and Licensing Department memo, which is up on the screen there. relating to liquor serving establishments and also the removal of the transferable parking permit benefit from the standard business license. Increasing operating costs have been a constant struggle for the business community, and continuing to place undue burden on these entities forces business owners to make hard choices. The majority of liquor serving establishments in the downtown Rehoboth Beach Business District are small entities with tight margins. While the majority of businesses are facing a 23% licensing fee increase, that's the $325 to $400 that's in the original schedule. Based on this current proposal, liquor serving establishments could potentially face a 53% increase in licensing fees alone. At a time when long-standing dining establishments have already begun a migration towards the Route 1 corridor due to increasing rents and parking constraints, it doesn't seem prudent that the city of Rehoboth Beach would add another factor to tip the scale when owners are deciding where to locate their establishments. Currently, businesses are independently responsible for their trash and recycling services, water and sewer services, snow removal, just to name a few, along with whatever required licensing fees that they have. While the transferable permit benefit to businesses does entice employees, they receive only one permit compared to the minimum 2 received by residents and property owners, who also receive additional permits for each vehicle registered in the owner's name. Transferable permits also do not equate to guaranteed parking or convenient parking for owners and employees. According to the 2025 data, of the approximately 11,000 free permits provided by the city at no charge for the only 3,000 available permit parking spaces, only approximately 1,450 of those were for businesses. Requiring businesses to pay a higher rate for a license which would no longer include the one perceived benefit of a transferable parking permit does not equitably distribute the burden of supporting city services. If the commissioners wish to fairly redistribute benefits, perhaps they should also consider cuts to the resident or property owner parking benefits. The city of Rehoboth Beach has long been a desirable destination for residents and visitors alike due to the beautiful natural surroundings and the thriving, diverse business community. Businesses are a driver of parking revenue, which accounts for approximately 30% of the city's budgeted general fund revenue. Adding increased financial burden on the businesses puts that revenue driver at risk. The Chamber hopes you will weigh the value added by the business district and the benefits it provides residents, visitors, and the city's budget before unnecessarily increasing their financial burden. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And then you be next.
My name is Norma Lee Burton Derrickson, and I've heard your thing about parking permits. So I'm sure all of you were into equity. So let's make it equitable. No one gets a parking permit, including the residents. The residents pay taxes. The businesses pay taxes. Businesses pay a permit to have a business to the state, to the city, and every time they do anything, like as he stated, you have to have a larger business, has to have all these people come in and approve every system. You pay the state, you pay the county, you pay the city. And I think you're really talking about an unfair burden on businesses, like they're bad people. But without businesses, a lot of people would not want to come here. They like the good restaurants, they like to be outside and have a drink. They like small stores. So do you want us to look like Dover, Delaware? Think about that, Mr. Saunders. If you want equity, let's do it to the residentials. Take it away from everybody. Because the person that owns the building pays taxes. The person that rents it pays taxes. They pay permits. Everyone pays permits. The resident doesn't pay a permit. Why wasn't there equity?
Thank you, Norma Lee. Dan, and Kate, if you have your thing in writing, would you mind sending it to Ann? And we'll get it to Marco. Thank you.
Hi, Dan Slagle with Rehoboth Beach Main Street. I just want to add on to what Kate was saying is I agree with a lot what she's saying, what the chamber says. We're losing business downtown. You know, we're losing a few businesses, and I'm meeting with new potential business owners. And what I'm hearing, and I'm just giving feedback, is that they seem like they don't really want to open a business here because it's just a lot of things they have to go through, and a lot of, permits and, liquor license and all that. So I just want us to really think about making this more attractive, for our new business owners that do want to come downtown. I am getting calls from folks that are interested in the buildings that are, is there any empty buildings? So there is a chance here for us to try to help people that do want to come in, and open a business. So I just wanted to speak on that behalf because I am here all about the business. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everybody. We're at the end of our program here today. I think we've got direction on a lot of these things. And at our next meeting, I think will be the opportunity for the commissioners especially to come up with comments on any changes that they want to see made. Do you have anything you want to add?
Ultimately, staff is here to answer any other questions that you have related to the water, wastewater, public works topics that we discussed today, or anything related to capital budget for next meeting. But ultimately, next meeting, we'll be talking about the community partner requests and then any adjustments, changes, recommendations to move forward to the final budget adoption. So again, staff's here for any questions. Thank you.
So I think for the next meeting, the community partner grant requests will take the lead. But then we'll arrange the agenda so that we can all have the opportunity to ask questions about any topic on there. All righty?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Good?
You indicated you wanted to wait on feedback on, say, for instance, this parking permit issue, but before the staff starts delving into it further, I concur with the commenter that, well, a couple of problems. There are many landlords who are getting the two, as by dint of being property owners, who are getting the two transferable parking permits plus ones for their vehicles. But those permits become fungible. They can offer them to their tenant, and presumably they might extract a little higher rent, or it might just be sort of a Christmas gift. Like, I don't want to micromanage landlords or business owners in that transaction. And the issue of equity, yeah, is a major one. Like, if we're going to hand out parking permits to residential property owners and to commercial property owners, I believe it's the right thing to do, assuming we're continuing with that program, which we probably are, to offer a parking permit, a transferable parking permit with a business license. My whole goal here is we see a run-up, sadly, in the budget in the expenditure side from 25.98 million in fiscal year 2026, which wraps up on March 31st of this year, to 29.437 million in fiscal year 2027, which commences on April 1st, 2026. That's a 13.3% rise. I've cited a lot of areas where I think we need to rein in spending. We're going to tax everybody to generate more revenue, and I think that's not the path most people would want to take right now, given some of the economic factors that are written about every day in the Wall Street Journal. So I'm really in favor next budget session of addressing, for instance, why the city's Ring Central and telephone network has risen 75% on us. Why we have Mr. Tedder, whose hiring was a big question, is now writing another unusually lavish contract for an employee who's been here less than 6 months. There are 60 or 80 instances of overspending. So if we were more prudent with taxpayers' money, we wouldn't be constantly up against raising more revenue. And that's the way I'd like to go, and I think the taxpayers would like to go that route too. All of them have suffered huge increases in their county property taxes, which are due beginning September 30th, 2025, with the bill that, for last year. It seems like, I don't know, I just think growing the budget, as we've done, by double digits the past 2 years in particular, is forcing us continuously to find new revenue sources. And while, yes, on a Saturday night, especially Valentine's Day coincided with a Saturday night this year, yes, you will see a lot of traffic in town. But often 4 or 5 days of the week in the off-season, which were never crowded in the past, I have seen even fewer people patronizing our businesses. And I just think the climate it's the wrong timing to keep growing City Hall budget and to continuously need more money from ratepayers.
Thank you. Anybody else? No further business. I want to remind everybody that we have a 2 o'clock regular meeting today. And with that, I adjourn this meeting at 11:25 a.m. Thank you very much.